In the heart of the American West, a miracle occurred that challenged everything we knew about biology. In 1995, after a 70-year absence, wolves were brought back to Yellowstone National Park. But to understand why they were brought back, you have to understand the disaster that happened without them. For decades, the ecosystem was in a state of collapse. Without its apex predator, the park's elk population grew out of control, stripping the land bare. The valleys were overgrazed, the forests couldn't regenerate, and the biodiversity was vanishing. Yellowstone was dying in silence. Then, the wolves returned, and something impossible happened. The rivers began to change. Their paths straightened, their banks stabilized, and the forests surged toward the sky. How can a claw and a fang reshape the literal geography of the earth? The answer is a phenomenon that scientists call a trophic cascade, but to understand how the wolf heals a broken world, we first have to understand the animal itself, the most successful, yet most misunderstood predator in human history. Today, we go beyond the myths. We're looking at tactical brilliance, complex family lives, and evolutionary secrets. Stay with us until the end, and you will change your mind about these shadows of the forest. Let's go back in time. Thousands of years ago, long before modern cities, highways, or borders, wolves dominated the northern hemisphere. The gray wolf lived across vast territories, from the forests of North America to the plains of Europe and the frozen reaches of Asia. In fact, wolves were once the most widespread land predator on Earth. Think about that for a second. Today, we associate dominance with species like lions or bears. But wolves? They adapted to almost every environment imaginable. Dense forests, open tundra, mountains, even deserts. Their success wasn't just about strength, it was about flexibility. But then, humans expanded. And everything changed. As agriculture grew and livestock became valuable, wolves were no longer seen as part of nature. They were seen as a threat. They were hunted, trapped, poisoned. Entire populations were wiped out. By the early 1900s, wolves had disappeared from most of the United States, including Yellowstone National Park. And at the time, people thought that was a victory. They thought they had finally tamed the wild. It wasn't a victory. It was the beginning of an ecological disaster. Today, that vast empire of wolves has been divided into distinct lineages. While they all share a common ancestor, nature has tailored them for their specific homes. We have the gray wolf, Canis lupus, the most famous of all, holding the line in the northern forests. In the high Arctic, you'll find the Arctic wolf, a ghostly white survivor that can endure sub-zero temperatures for months. To the south, the red wolf, smaller and more secretive, clings to existence in the southeastern United States. And then there is the Ethiopian wolf, a rare, slender predator of the African highlands that looks more like a fox but carries the ancient DNA of the pack. Different colors, different sizes, but the same soul. They all share the same complex social language and the same relentless drive to survive. To look at a wolf is to see a masterpiece of evolutionary design. They are far larger than most people realize. A mature male can weigh anywhere from 80 to 130 pounds, and in some regions, giants over 170 pounds have been recorded. When a wolf stands on its hind legs, it can look an adult human straight in the eye. And they are fast. A wolf can reach a top speed of 35 to 40 miles per hour during a chase. But their real strength lies in their endurance. They can trot at 5 miles per hour for an entire day without stopping, literally running their prey into a state of exhaustion. This physical power is guided by senses that are almost supernatural. A wolf's world is made of sense. While a human has about 5 million olfactory receptors, a wolf has nearly 300 million. They can detect a scent trail over 2 days old and smell prey from over a mile away. Their hearing is just as sharp, they can hear the high-pitched squeak of a rodent under 2 feet of snow and can detect the sound of a falling leaf from miles away. But their muscles and senses are only half the story. The real secret to their survival is their intellect. Wolves possess a type of tactical intelligence rarely seen in nature. They have been observed using the terrain to their advantage, driving prey toward frozen lakes where the ice is thin, or using deep snow to slow down heavy elk. They have a sense of object permanence and can remember paths and locations for years. Most impressively, they exhibit social cognition. They can predict the movements of their pack mates and their enemies without a single sound. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors noticed these qualities: the loyalty, the strategic mind, and the incredible senses. We realized that having a wolf as an ally was a survival cheat code. Over millennia, through a long and slow process of coevolution, these wolves became our dogs. Every dog on Earth carries the DNA of the wolf. But here is the crucial difference. A dog's loyalty is hardwired to humans. They look to us for direction and comfort. A wolf? A wolf remains a creature of the wild. Even when raised by humans, a wolf never loses its independent spirit. A dog sees you as a master, a wolf sees you, at best, as a member of the pack. They are not pets that lost their way, they are apex predators that kept their soul. When we talk about a wolf pack, we aren't talking about a gang, we're talking about a family. Unlike many animals, wolves are often monogamous. An alpha pair can stay together for life, forming a bond that lasts until one of them dies. They are the heart of the pack, the decision-makers who lead not through fear, but through experience. Inside the pack, every member has a role. There are the yearlings, who act as older siblings, helping to protect and play with the new pups. There are the scouts, who venture ahead during travel, and the experienced hunters who know exactly when to strike. This structure ensures that the pack functions as a single, multi-headed organism. How do they maintain this coordination? Through the language of the wild. A wolf's howl can carry for up to 6 miles in the forest and even further on the open tundra. It's a complex tool for sharing information, identifying their location, announcing a kill, or warning other packs to stay away. But even the strongest family must eat. A wolf is a hypercarnivore, meaning their diet is almost entirely meat. While they will eat rabbits or rodents in lean times, they are designed to take down giants. They hunt moose, elk, bison, and wild boar, prey that can weigh 10 times more than a single wolf. A single kick from an elk can be fatal, so the hunt is a high-stakes game of chess. They don't just attack, they test the prey, looking for a sign of weakness, waiting for the perfect moment to exhaust the animal through a relentless chase. However, the wolf is not the only king of the forest. They have fierce competitors. In North America, they clash with grizzly bears and cougars. In Europe and Asia, they compete with brown bears and Amur tigers. Do wolves feel fear? Yes. They are incredibly cautious. They fear anything that threatens the survival of the pack. A lone wolf will almost always flee from a bear, and they are terrified of rival wolf packs. Most wolf deaths in the wild aren't caused by starvation or bears, they are caused by other wolves in brutal territorial wars. For a wolf, the only thing more dangerous than the wild is another pack. For thousands of years, the relationship between humans and wolves has been complicated. Not just in reality, but in our imagination. Across Europe and much of the world, wolves became symbols of fear. In our stories, they were turned into monsters. Creatures of the night. Hunters of humans. Think about how often the wolf appears as the villain, from ancient folklore to iconic stories like Little Red Riding Hood. The message was always the same. The wolf is dangerous. The wolf is evil. The wolf must be feared. But where did this image come from? Part of it was pure survival. Early human communities lived close to nature and depended entirely on livestock. To a farmer, a wolf wasn't just a predator, it was a direct economic threat. And fear quickly turns into hatred. Over time, that fear became culture, and culture became myth. But reality is very different. Wolves almost never attack humans. In fact, they actively avoid us. A wolf that catches the scent of a human will usually retreat long before you even know they were there. So, if wolves are not the monsters we imagined, why did we try so hard to destroy them? It's because we misunderstood them. And because, unlike wolves, who only hunt when they must, humans don't just react. We eliminate. We saw their independence as a challenge to our dominance. In the wild, wolves do have enemies. As we've seen, they occasionally clash with bears or engage in violent skirmishes with rival packs. But these encounters are rare. In nature, unnecessary conflict is a death sentence. It is a profound irony of nature. The very creature we feared for its lethality turned out to be the guardian of life itself. The truth is, wolves are not nearly as dangerous as they are vital. They are the sanitarians of the forest, and their presence is the heartbeat of a healthy wilderness. Now we return to the question from the beginning. How can wolves change an entire ecosystem? To answer that, we go back to Yellowstone National Park. When wolves disappeared from Yellowstone in the early 20th century, it seemed like a victory. Ranchers felt safer. Livestock losses decreased. But something unexpected happened. Without wolves, elk populations exploded. At first, that didn't seem like a problem. More animals sounds like a good thing. But ecosystems don't work that way. With no predators controlling them, elk began to overgraze. They fed constantly, especially in valleys and near rivers. Young trees, like willows and aspens, never had a chance to grow. The land slowly began to change. Vegetation disappeared. Riverbanks weakened. Soil eroded. And with that, other species began to vanish. Birds lost nesting areas. Beavers disappeared, because they relied on those trees. The ecosystem started to collapse. Not suddenly, but quietly. Then, in 1995, something changed. Wolves were brought back. At first, the effect seemed simple. They reduced elk numbers. But that's only part of the story. The real change was behavioral. Elk became cautious. They avoided open valleys. They stayed alert. They moved more often. And that changed everything. Because now, vegetation had time to recover. Trees began to grow again. Forests slowly returned. With them, came birds. And then, something incredible happened. Beavers came back. They began building dams again. And those dams changed the flow of rivers. Let that sink in. A predator changed the behavior of prey, which restored vegetation, which brought back other species, which altered the physical structure of rivers. This chain reaction is called a trophic cascade, and it shows something profound. Wolves don't just live in ecosystems. They shape them. The story of the wolf is not just about survival. It's about connection. In nature, nothing exists in isolation. Every action has a consequence. Every species plays a role. Remove one, and the system begins to break. Bring it back, and balance can return. Wolves are not villains. They are not symbols of fear. They are regulators. Stabilizers. A necessary part of the natural world. And maybe the most important lesson is this. Nature doesn't need to be controlled. It needs to be understood. Because when we interfere without understanding, we don't just change one species. We change everything. So the next time you hear a wolf howl in the distance, don't think of danger. Think of a system, working exactly as it should. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe. There are many more incredible animal investigations coming to the channel very soon.